Welcome and congratulations to the top three drivers at the 1999 Belgian Grand Prix. David Coulthard, Mika Häkkinen and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. David, great victory, crushing victory, but a very aggressive start. Talk us through that first corner.
Well, before the actual red lights went out, Mika moved, and I almost moved with him as a reaction. And then when the lights went out properly, he made a not very good start. I made a better start, and naturally came over to defend what I could take on the line. And when I realised it was still going to be close, I opened out a little bit, and then there was a little bit of contact, but I don't think there was any damage done.
So you actually touched then?
Yeah, we touched just as we were turning into the source, but then I turned away to make room, so there would be no damage done.
Now you were much faster than Mika in the first stint, and the rest of the race was really even. Was it just because you were pushing early on?
I don't know. I was surprised I was pulling away from Mika. I don't know if he had some damage to his car from the contact, or whether he had some other problem. But pretty much it was easy to pull away, and then just try and maintain the gap until my last stop.
Now, when you won in Silverstone, you did mention the fact that the two contenders went out of that race due to accidents and problems. Does it give you more satisfaction to win here at the driver's circuit?
Absolutely. It's always been my favourite track, and I've never won here in any of the formulas I've raced. So to finally win here is great. So to win Silverstone this year and then Spa, it's two big circuits for me.
Dave, thanks very much. Mika, we've heard David's version of those first few yards. How did you see the first corner?
I knew you were going to ask that first, but I understand it is a start, obviously. Yeah. So it was experience again. Not very pleasant, but no further comments, to be honest. But in generally, I think the race itself, how it went, when you have two very competitive cars, equal speed, overtaking, then is something which is not something what I should consider in that point. So and try to stay close to David doesn't make any sense either, because engine doesn't cool very well that moment. You take unnecessary risks because you don't have the best possible downforce in the car. So that moment is better just to drop and concentrate for your race and able to score in the best what you can have, and what the moment was the best possible to score is the second position, which is obviously in the championship it's better than nothing what could have happened in the first corner, but like I said, I think at the moment we're equal points with Eddie. I understood he was fourth. So that makes it a situation interesting further on in the season.
Just going back a bit, what actually happened on the start line?
Yeah, I have a slight problem there, and when the lights went on and all the lights were burning, you want to feel the clutch where it is, and suddenly the clutch grabbed very quickly, and the car moved. Luckily, I stopped the car completely that moment and put the clutch back in completely. And obviously that's normal. What happens is the light goes off that moment. I still was able to make a reasonable start, to be honest, and I was hanging there all the time, but that's it.
Thanks, Mika. Heinz-Harald, you made a good start, kept your third position, then the two McLarens went away from you, the rest of the field came behind you. It seemed like a very, very quiet race. Was that how you saw it?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I felt a little bit sorry for the spectators. At least in the front, we couldn't have an interesting fight. Actually, at the start, I was quite confident that Mika would get a penalty, but I think unfortunately he didn't for me. But I think the system is activated in a certain moment. So, but I was quite happy to get away as well, because there was a little bit of confusion, and then I tried to do my own race, tried to be as quick as possible, and tried to maintain my rhythm. I tried to follow Mika as much as possible, but unfortunately McLaren, they were a bit too fast for us today.
Heinz-Harald, thank you. David, you're now just 14 points behind Mika, 13 behind Eddie. You must be now thinking about the World Championship.
Not really, no. Thinking about the next race, because it's obviously those races that put you in contention for that. So just go away, hopefully have a good test in Monza, and look forward to that race.
Well, the next race obviously has the spectre for McLaren of Michael Schumacher's return. Is that going to affect how you prepare for the race?
Not at all. We prepare to our best of our ability for every Grand Prix. Obviously, you can expect some more competition when Michael's back, but we can't do any more than we're already doing.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well done. And now from Mika and Heinz-Harald, a word in your own language, please.
You're back with us at Spa, where we've seen David Coulthard record the first McLaren win here since Ayrton Senna back in 1991. Massive crowd, over 80,000 here today. And just look what that has done. McLaren leading the constructors comfortably, and back on top of the individual championship as well is the reigning champion, Mika Hakkinen. OK, Tony Jardine, it wasn't as compelling last year. We went out of our seats with excitement, but a very, very efficient job by both McLarens and particularly by David Coulthard.
Well, David Coulthard is back in the championship race with a vengeance now. He's minus 14 points from the new leader, Mika Hakkinen, who's got 1 point ahead. But I think there'll be a huge relief in the Ferrari camp, and from Eddie Irvine in particular, because, you know, Hakkinen didn't get that 10 points that he wanted. He only got 6 points today. 1 point in it going into Monza. Michael Schumacher coming back, the Tifosi going berserk. Ferrari had a 1-2 there last year. They're going to work their socks off for their home Grand Prix, and woe betide McLaren if they're not on the ball when they get down to Monza. Flip side of that is, let's not forget that our own David Coulthard won in 1997 for McLaren. So let's beat the drum for Britain and Scotland as well. He's in there with a chance.
Absolutely. So now, what are you saying here exactly? Because I know the bookmakers back home have been very cagey about this. We're not going to do anything until we see what Michael Schumacher's going to do. I mean, do you really feel there's now that Michael Schumacher's in with a chance at the championship, Irvine, Coulthard, and of course Hakkinen?
No, I mean, Schumacher really hasn't got a chance of it. And by the way, you owe me a £5 because you said there was going to be a crash at the start.
Checks in the post. Checks in the post.
And that was just minutes before those two McLarens nearly touched.
Well, it nearly was with those
Checks,
McLarens.
and I don't want any of that Toy Town money either that you'll produce.
The white fiver I'll give you.
Yeah.
But it's a heck of a race going into a heck of a battle for the title going into the last few races.
And 40 points left on the board, a variety of circuits coming up. And we've also been talking about the pace of development of Ferrari. We haven't been saying that there's no development of Ferrari, but our Italian spies suggest the development isn't going the way that it should have done. They've tried different floor pans that haven't worked. They've tried different aerodynamics that haven't worked. It's clear on the fast circuits, as Eddie Irvine said, that it's not working on the fast tracks. You look at the speed, that's a combination of the aerodynamics not working efficiently. The engine's fine, it's got plenty of punch there, but it's not the aerodynamic, slim, super slick silver tool that the old McLaren is.
How much of a statement do we see here by David Coulthard? Because he really had the number over Mika Hakkinen from the start, didn't he? And we've not seen that often.
David Coulthard is a better racer than he is a qualifier. And just look at the start here. Now he comes out of the box here with total commitment. This circuit rewards the brave, and David Coulthard was very, very brave indeed. I think there was more grip on the left-hand side of the circuit. Pole position was on the inside, on the right. Damon Hill had a very slow start here. Look at this. He is a nose ahead. He's 3/4 of a length of a car ahead. Quite legitimate for him to go in there and take his racing line. You can come out tight. You can come out wide of La Source. It fans out there and you get your boot in going down the hill. And David Coulthard really has been brave and bold. You can see it from Heinz-Harald Frentzen here in third place. Coulthard keeps the boot in all the way down the outside, a little glance in his mirror perhaps to see where Hakkinen was. And Hakkinen, as he's moving to the outside there, has to back off to the extent that Heinz-Harald Frentzen almost nips past into second place. But that is a great move from David Coulthard. That was the move of the match for me.
Right, it's great.
I don't want to mention football, but that was the move of the match.
Okay, your magical moment. Yeah, Tony, all right. It's great that those two McLarens race each other, but there were shades of Austria there almost, weren't they, when they were so close to, well, doing a lot of damage to their overall prospects.
Well, the chat has been team orders. They are equal #1 between David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen, so they're allowed to race. And I say that that is a fantastic move from McLaren. Thank you very much, Ron Dennis. He says it's for the show and the entertainment. But as Martin was saying, they've both legitimately got a chance of the championship, so why not let them go and race? So we said to DC, well, what's the story? What has Ron actually said to you? So the only advice he's given me is don't hit your teammates. So he's probably sitting on the outside going, oh my God.
Yeah, of course, we're going to hear from the top three very shortly in the press conference, aren't we? But what did you make earlier on of Hakkinen's sort of lack of speed earlier on, the way he then picked up?
there was clearly some sort of a problem, whether the engine wasn't picking up well enough, whether he had a little problem with the balance of the car. It could have even been brake balance, like Zanardi's had huge problems with brake balance here, and he had to change the spare car at the beginning. That will become clear in a little while. But it had cleared up after the stop, after that first stop, because then he got a great balance on the car, and he had actually picked up speed, as you can see here, as he dives down the inside of Ralf Schumacher, going up to 190 miles per hour, and that is where 2 years ago, if you remember, Mika Hakkinen in the warm-up crashed. And the wheel came off, and we all feared that it had actually hit him in the head. So again, it is a circuit for the brave. It's a daunting place. And I just think back to their faces on the grid, and when Martin was interviewing Hakkinen, he was looking sort of pensive and worried, and Ron was looking around.
We rarely see the drivers like that, do we?
No, they're normally very, very cool customers indeed. They were definitely in awe of this place, and so you should be.
You talk about Mika Hakkinen's crash a couple of years ago. We didn't have anything that really resembled what happened to the BARs in qualifying, but a couple of hits, weren't there, involving Pedro Diniz and Johnny Herbert? Yeah,
Diniz was in Eau Rouge as well, which is a dangerous part of the track, as we've seen, and there have been some huge crashes. Salo went off there last year, Villeneuve's been off, Zonta's been off. It's almost copybook. Now, the key to this in the Sauber is that he revolves in the middle on the tarmac, scrubs off lots of speed, misses the sand trap on the top on the left, and more, the gravel trap there does its business, and he only goes in lightly. Johnny Herbert, poor Johnny Herbert, was running very well down. He went off earlier on and got across the sand trap, see across the gravel and the kitty litter there, manages to just feather the throttle. Now look at the left front there. I wasn't sure whether the tyre was slightly deflating or whether he'd just locked up badly. We're not sure, but he gets into a very, very big spin, a huge amount of tyre smoke there. Johnny will be absolutely gutted. He has been very strange, very steely of late, determined to try and keep his place. He's keeping his head down. He's lost his sense of humour at the moment, and I don't blame him. That thing's just been going on and on. He's fed up, and he wants to stay in Grand Prix racing. And we need him. Britain needs him in there.
It looks as though Eddie Irvine is destined for that team next year. I mean, deep down, do you feel Johnny Herbert has to produce something for the rest of the season if he is going to maintain that seat?
Well, it's not just me. I mean, we want him to and we're urging him to, but it's the big bosses from America. It's people like Reitzler, who's taken over at Jaguar, if it is going to be a Jaguar car, and we understand that the Frankfurt Motor Show is where they're going to launch this lovely British racing green is going to be seen again. They need to have two very, very competitive drivers. There will be a faction that's saying, well, Johnny's a bit old in the tooth now. He might be a two-time winner, but if you look at his record over the last 2 years, it's not particularly good. Perhaps we should get a young charger in here.
The Stewarts seem to have fallen away a little bit in the second half of the season when they started so brightly.
Yeah, Gary Anderson, the designer there, was looking a little bit pensive this morning, a little bit worried. They had a huge problem here, which is strange to fathom, that in the slower corners, like La Source, they weren't able to get the traction down. They weren't able to get the power down. And the back end of the car, according to Rubens Barrichello, was just snapping away. You don't need that here at Spa. It's a very frightening place when the rear end is going on you like that. So they were driving tentatively.
Let's go back to Mika Hakkinen. I mean, if McLaren have had problems this season, they've been self-induced, really, haven't they? And they've had one or two very, very dodgy pit stops, and it looked as though it might strike here again with Mika Hakkinen.
Yeah, a little bit, but everything cool and unflustered as usual in the McLaren pit as they come in, everything going like clockwork. And again, James was looking for any damage from that early touch at La Source, but there was a problem. Imagine that, you're just letting the clutch off and you've got a hand clutch on the back of the steering wheel there. Instant lightning reactions from Mika Hakkinen. He just catches it, and the revs on those cars are so critical. It's so easy to stall. How he managed to catch that, it's a brilliant job from Mika Hakkinen, saving his second place there.
He looked pretty disappointed, didn't he, that he hadn't won this race, Mika Hakkinen, at the end there. Is that him being a perfectionist or what?
That is, he's more than gutted. I mean, he's sort of rock bottom there, and the body language suggested that, you know, this was my race. Almost, I'll bet you he'll be going back to Ron after and saying, no, I think it's time for team orders. And perhaps Mika Hakkinen's management will also be thumping the table and saying, look, you know, we're the championship leader now by 1 point, but surely it's time for David Coulthard to get into the line and back me up. Michael Schumacher's coming back at Monza. We should have team orders.
We're not sure about that, Michael Schumacher, are we? I think we've got to be careful about making this big assumption that he will be back, although the scene is set for him, but it's not definite yet.
Well, I think we have to remember Olivier Panis, who broke both his legs in Canada a couple of years ago, and they were both pinned. He came back with the pins in his legs, and he admits that it was like driving under a huge dark cloud. Because all I could think about was that if I went off and I hit something, if I bend and break those legs again and the plates break or bend, they'll be severely damaged. Now, you can't tell me that won't go through Schumacher's mind. When he wants to play football for Aubonne again, he wants to go skiing again, he wants to be with his family. He's a fitness fanatic. And if it's not quite right, I think he might not just come back at Monza. But the lure of the Tifosi will be a bit much for him.
That's right. We saw the McLarens almost touching, and there's nothing more embarrassing, is there, in motor racing than when two team members sort of almost have a coming together, and the Ferraris were in that position.
Almost in that position, because we had Mika Salo, who was trying to keep off Ralf Schumacher. He hadn't taken his second stop, but Eddie Irvine coming there out of his stop, and he was looking good. The Ferrari mechanics done a great job, and look at that, hadn't quite seen Mika Salo blasting down the inside, having to take the grass on the outside of La Source there, and a little bit of dust and grass must have been kicked up into Eddie Irvine's face. Poor Eddie wondering what was going on. No danger to his place, because he managed to actually keep his fourth position and scrabble 3 points out of a very, very disappointing Grand Prix. And there he goes back ahead of his own teammate Mika Salo. In his last Grand Prix, Mika Salo, potentially for Ferrari, and he's joining Sauber next year.
Absolutely. Let's not forget we've had a British winner here today. We've had David Coulthard, and a wonderful, consistent job from David Coulthard. Do you think he might look back in future and say, yeah, Spa 99, that was at my turning point?
I hope he does, and I think he should do, because there was a fabulous rear shot of him going down the backside of the circuit before Pouhon on the top, where he was on top of the curbs, kicking up the dust, and you could see his total commitment. Scotland the brave, rewarding the brave here, and if you do it at a circuit like this, as we've said, you know, look, Ayrton Senna won here 5 times. Michael Schumacher's won here 4 times. Damon Hill has won here 3 times. Now we've got David Coulthard added his name to that illustrious list of winners. And he was committed, like we're normally used to seeing Mika Hakkinen, with that sort of commitment and verve in terms of his driving. And it came from David Coulthard, and I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, indeed we all are.
Bike page, go in here, Jim.
Back-to-back victories then for the McLarens, 32 points in the last couple of races. Ron Dennis, the team manager, who never gives too much away, the big boss there, he's talking to James.
Ron Dennis, great result today. You must be absolutely ecstatic. You totally run this race.
It was a good victory for us. Very boring. A little boring for everybody else, but it was great for us. Very, very pleased for David. He deserved the win. It was a little bit tense at the first corner, but that's motor racing.
Tell us a little bit about the start, though. Did they touch?
I'm afraid they did, which was a little unfortunate, but you know, we're a racing team and they're there to race.
And no damage to Mika's car, obviously?
None at all.
Well done, Ron.
Thank you.
Well, he said it might have been boring for a few of you out there, but certainly not boring for any of the McLaren team around about Woking, or indeed around the pits here.
No, I mean, I think it was a fascinating tactical race. I mean, all I would say was that because it was very difficult to pass, although not for Jean Lazy, who came through the field, Ralf Schumacher, who managed to put in some passes as well, it still indicates that when they have their big think tank between the team owners and the ruling governing body of the sport towards the end of the year, they should think about reducing the aerodynamics. They should think about bringing back the slicks. There are some recommendations, suggestions rather, by the drivers from the Grand Prix Drivers Association and by some of the team owners, that we've got to be able to reduce that dirty air and those aerodynamics from the back of the car so that we can get a bit closer and get some passing manoeuvres. Everything else is absolutely fantastic in Grand Prix racing. We've had a brilliant season so far. Let's get them a bit closer. Bernie Ecclestone himself has said, I want to see the cars getting their nose right under the rear wing of the car in the front, being able to slipstream and come out and have a great overtaking manoeuvre.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much for the moment. Anyway, still to come from us this afternoon, we're going to be talking to Damon Hill, and of course we're going to be hearing from the top 3 as well from the press conference. See you shortly. You are back with us at Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium, where a massive crowd is leaving the Belgian Grand Prix won by David Coulthard. Terrific win for Britain and for Scotland. David Coulthard in with a bit of a shout as well to become world champion. Let's hear what they've got to say in the press conference. The top three, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Mika Häkkinen, and of course DC.
Welcome and congratulations.
Not a very pleasant experience, said Mika through sort of clenched Finnish teeth there, didn't he? The start he was talking about. Why was he so upset about that?
Well, David Coulthard said it first. He said that Mika had actually moved before the last red light went off, and he said, I nearly went with him, because they're sitting there holding on the revs, and that would have been very, very tricky for David Coulthard, because that was the first time he was using the hand clutch, and they have one paddle on each side at the top of the steering wheel, and he'd have been holding it on the revs. And what Häkkinen was doing was just getting the clutch just before it bites, and obviously it had moved momentarily, so the sensor on the grid will have lit a little light up in race control, and they've gone, uh-oh. That's why for the first sort of 10 laps or so it said car number 1 under investigation, clearly for a possible jump start. So he got off the hook. He could have had a 10-second stop-go penalty for that.
Right, OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed for clearing that up. Let's have a word with Damon Hill. Terrific record round here in the top 6 once again. He's talking to James.
Damon, 6th place today. I guess the start was what really lost it for you today.
Absolutely, really. The start was the big disappointment for me, and from then on it was a struggle to stay in the points, but I fought for the point and got the point, which is good for the team.
But it's gutting, really, because the car was the best of the rest. Heinz-Harald was able to be up there. You'd have been right there with him, wouldn't you?
Well, you can always say what might have been, but I mean, the actual fact of the matter is I qualified well, but got a bad start, and you can't. You have to have such a big advantage to be able to pass here. The cars are very difficult to overtake.
So not quite the euphoria of last year, but at least Jordan looking a lot more comfortable for 3rd place in the Constructors, which you said was the reason you wanted to keep on racing this year.
Yeah, it's important for Eddie, as you can see, and for the team that they come out of the year as 3rd place in the Constructors. Again, we've got a car ahead of a Williams, which is the nearest threat, and a car behind, so that kind of mitigates the damage that the Williams did, but it's always going forwards and getting better.
Thanks.
He's got thousands and thousands of fans around this circuit, isn't he, Damon? They've seen him drive here for the last time in Formula 1. Would they have been reasonably happy with 6, do you think?
I think so. To get points like that is great. He has driven very, very well. You've got to think about your motivation if you've declared your intent to retire at the end of the season. But I think he gets so excited about this place. He says that going through a Rouge for him is almost addictive. He said you keep going down, down, down. It's a sensation that you want more and more of. And he said if you put good laps together at Spa, the enjoyment and the thrill that you get back is so great. That's clear in his driving here all over the weekend. And to get a championship point, he's done what he said he would do. So I think he'll be pleased with that. And the fans.
Could have been very close to the podium after that start, but despite that start, I should say.
Yes, despite the start.
Yeah.
But he'll quietly give himself a little bit of a kick for that one because he lost so many places and he hasn't started well this year off the line. And it's critical to get a good start.
Thanks, Tony. Quite a few people have been kicking Alex Zanardi around this season. A much better race, though, for him, finishing in 8th place.
Well, Alex, you can't be too unhappy with that.
No, I am unhappy. What are you talking about? I mean, I was in comfortable 6, and the pit stop we didn't get all the fuel, so we had to pit again. We were on a one-stop strategy, and it's a big shame. But at least we were competitive. We were there. Had problems with the brake, but I was managing to keep the car alive. The car was responding well, you know, apart from the brakes and apart from the fact that we didn't get the fuel we needed to finish the race.
But at least you made it to the finish.
Yeah, but it's 8 places. Even worse than Wood medal, which is 7, you know, 1st out of the points. This is 2nd out of the points. It's okay. I mean, it's a finish. For me, the important thing is that we were running competitively, and I finished the race. Again, it's a shame because today for sure I could score a point. It was there already, but next time.
Yeah, next time, Alex. By the way, if you've got any comments, of course, make them on the email and the ITV website. We've got an exclusive with Alex Zanardi and Ralf Schumacher next Sunday. Full details on the website. Let's have a chat to Eddie Irvine. Still right up there. He's lost the championship, but the race far from over yet.
Did he just sum up for us a very difficult weekend for you?
A difficult weekend with, you know, a really amazing piece of damage limitation. You know, whenever McLaren are stronger than us, we got to make sure we score, and we did. And and it was great that Hakkinen didn't win. So, you know, we're still in there. I never, you know, after yesterday and this morning, and the first few laps of the race, I thought, you know, I'm going to be lucky to get points here. We got 3 and he only got 6. Perfect.
Still only 1 point in it going into Monza.
Exactly. Fun and games.
Fun and games. He's lost the championship lead, but he's still right in the hunt to be world champion. How about Craig Pollock then, British American Racing, with all the problems before the start? At least Villeneuve finished the race.
Well, Craig, what a weekend.
It's been an extremely hard weekend, very character building for the whole team, but the team has done an absolutely brilliant job. If you think that we've been running 5 cars during this weekend, they've spent all-nighters to make sure everything was okay. The factories worked superbly well, and we couldn't have done without it. It's actually turned into being a great little team.
Jacques' first finish, what's that going to mean for the boys who, as you say, have been grafting so hard this weekend?
Well, it's more important for the boys that have been grafting so hard. I think Jacques takes it very, very hard because, you know, he was in 15th place and was trying to overtake for 14th, and there was no point. I mean, 14th or 15th place, it makes no difference to him, the championship or anything else, but it meant a lot to the boys to actually bring the car home. But when you're a driver, what you want to do is try and overtake the car in front. But the car made it to the end of the race, which means obviously there's a little bit of reliability coming back in. 5th race finish. Can't say I'm extremely proud of that, but we'll just nibble away at it, keep working.
Tough old weekend. Sum it all up for us, Tony Jardine.
Well, I think there's a thrilling future for Grand Prix racing. Don't forget, after 5 races in '98, there was a 22-point lead for Hakkinen. At the end of the year, just a 4-point lead. I think we're in for a thrilling finale at Suzuka in October.
Sure, you're absolutely right. And don't forget, there are highlights of this afternoon's Belgian Grand Prix coming your way. Highlights tonight. Here we are, just before midnight. More reaction and more analysis. And, well, as we've been saying in a couple of weeks' time, the full F1 service from Monza. Qualifying live on the Saturday, 11:30. The race live, 12:15 on the Sunday. Highlights at 11:45. When those McLarens keep going, they are the class of Formula One. Coulthard a winner here for the first time. Hakkinen leading the championship. Ferrari will want Michael Schumacher back at Monza. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. The Silver Arrows, 32 points from Hungary and Belgium. David Coulthard joining the greats who've conquered Spa. Mika Hakkinen overtaking Eddie Irvine in the Drivers' Championship.
David, that first corner, what was your view on it?
Well, Mika made a sort of double start and wasn't very good off the line. I made a better start. And I think I believe I was in front as I went into La Source because I couldn't actually see him. So I started to turn in and then I felt a little bit of contact, so I moved to give him room and went round very wide. So I fully expected a few cars to pass me on the inside, but no one did, so I was quite happy.
And a good strong race thereafter. You've got to be pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, I'm very happy. You know, the car felt good. Did a good job to change the car from the warm-up where I wasn't quite so happy. Pit stops were faultless, so once again the team did a fantastic job.
It's a good victory for us. Very boring. A little boring for everybody else, but it was great for us. Very, very pleased for David. He deserved the win. It was a little bit tense at the first corner, but that's motor racing.
The McLarens today were unbeatable, and we were behind them with a safety margin. But we again scored some points. 3rd place for me is very nice today. I had a good race today, but unfortunately I lost my 3rd place in the championship.
It's important for Eddie, as you can see, and for the team that they come out of the year 3rd place in the constructors. Again, we've got a car ahead of a Williams, which is the nearest threat, and a car behind, so that kind of mitigates the damage that the Williams did, but it's always going forwards and getting better.
Difficult weekend with, you know, a really amazing piece of damage limitation. You know, whenever McLaren are stronger than us, we got to make sure we score, and we did, and it was great that Hakkinen didn't win. So you know, we're still in there. I never, you know, after yesterday and this morning, and the first few laps of the race, I thought, you know, I'm going to be lucky to get points here. We got 3 and he only got 6. Perfect.
Well, Craig, what a weekend.
It's been an extremely hard weekend, very character building for the whole team, but the team has done an absolutely brilliant job. If you think that we've been running 5 cars during this weekend, they've spent all-nighters to make sure everything was okay. The factories worked superbly well, and we couldn't have done without it. It's actually turned into being a great little team.
It's been a difficult weekend for the team. Is the finish some consolation for them, do you think?
Well, I'm happy for them because they've worked really hard, so it's good to see the checker flat for the first time in the year. But you know, 15th, finishing 15th or running 4th and not finishing, it's still the same end result, no points.
Just a point in it then between Hakkinen and Irvine with 4 to go, and David Coulthard running on very strongly in 3rd place. Don't discount him from the World Championship. Frentzen on 40 points, and Ralf Schumacher picked up a couple of points today. In the constructors, McLaren are stretching away. Ferrari have lost the lead. Jordan's 3rd, looking rock solid now, and Williams had a much better day. Right, let's have a word with Tony Jardine. A terrific day for David Coulthard. From the word go, he was going to win this race.
Came straight out of his corner, didn't he? Fighting, boxing away. A race he's always wanted to win. Supreme Grand Prix Drivers' Challenge. I've put Spa alongside Monte Carlo as one of the great races to win. And he's added his name to that illustrious list, so that's great for the Scotsman.
What is it about pole position here at Spa? No one's won from pole since Senna back in '91.
I think it's because they've swapped it around, you know. One time it's on the inside as it was this time, another time it's on the outside, and clearly this time the grip was on the outside of the track. Although, as I said, this circuit is for the brave, and he who hesitates is definitely lost. And there seemed to be a bit of hesitation, apparently, from Hakkinen off the start.
For your magic moment this week, Tony, you've picked out the start.
David Coulthard was mighty. As I say, he came out fighting as well. Just look at this as the lights go out. Apparently Hakkinen has slightly hesitated there, but David Coulthard all the way down the outside. He gets good grip, but he stays with it. He's absolutely fearless there. The camera was just slightly off it, and we missed what happened because the two of them were neck and neck. But we look again, you see that Coulthard was nearly 3/4 of a length of the car ahead. He had the corner, and Hakkinen had to give that way there. But you can go on the inside, you can go on the outside of La Source, because suddenly as you come at the exit, it all fans out and you put the boot in and get the power out of the V10 diving down there. Here's a view from 3rd position, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, a great view, side by side, and there's a lock up there from David Coulthard, a touch there, and he moves clearly to the outside, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen nearly nips through into 2nd place, but Hakkinen gets that power of the Mercedes engine down the hill much better.
Irvine and Coulthard now then in the hunt for the title.
Yeah, but that's the other great thing, you know, going to Monza, you've got 2 Brits in it, as well as the Finn as well, and it's all opening up, so it could go down to the wire in Suzuka.
Bad start, but good overall performance from Hill here.
Hill dropped back very sadly at the start, lost quite a few places, but he's got a very valuable championship point. He's driven well all through qualifying, right through the race, put in a great performance for a man who's going to retire.
Just finally, Tony, you're in action this bank holiday Monday.
Yeah, I'm driving a Ginetta tomorrow at Donington Park, see if I can stay on the black stuff.
I hope you learn a bit today. Tony Jardine, thank you very much indeed. Here's your complete Spa rundown. Coulthard, the dominant winner. Hakkinen 2nd with the fastest lap. Frentzen 3rd. It's the closest Grand Prix to his hometown, Mönchengladbach. Irvine 4th. Delighted Hakkinen's only a point clear. Ralf Schumacher 5th for Williams. Damon Hill 6th. Shame about the start. Salo 7th. It could be his last drive for Ferrari. Zanardi's best yet. 8th. Alesi winding down with Sauber 9th. Barrichello 10th. Fisichella 11th, disappointing for Benetton. The Prost, Trulli and Panis. Wurz in the 2nd, Benetton. First finish of the season for Villeneuve after a hairy weekend for BAR. A lap adrift along with Genet. De La Rosa's transmission failed, but Doa's suspension went. Zonta's gearbox let him down. Herbert and Deniz both crashed out. And Takagi never got in the race because he had a dodgy clutch. Now let's get another view from James Allen. Strategy is everything around this Spa circuit, and the top 4 teams all adopted very different tactics.
Well, Jim, things have calmed down in the Spa paddock here, but I can tell you they haven't calmed down inside the Williams motorhome. Ralf Schumacher's still absolutely furious. He tried a one-stopper. He would have got 4th place, but he was held up by Salo. He'll calm down eventually, though. Inside this motorhome here, you've got the Jordan team, just proving that strategy doesn't just take place on a Sunday. It's all weekend. You need to qualify well and then consolidate on that position. And now they look good for 3rd in the Constructors. Inside the Ferrari motorhome, I fancy a little head-scratching is going on. The car simply wasn't fast enough all weekend. The pit work was fine. The strategy was clever, but they've got a lot of work to do if they're going to win this World Championship. And down there, McLaren Mercedes, how often have we seen them lose races by the two drivers clashing with each other in the first corner? They got away with it today. They got a 1-2 finish, and now we've got Coulthard in the mix as well. Fine pit work, great strategy, beautiful day for the McLaren team.
Thanks, James. Next, we go to Monza, qualifying live 11:30 on the Saturday. In a couple of weeks' time, the race, all the build-up from 12:15, and highlights round about the same time, just before midnight. So the initiative is with McLaren. But at Monza, backed by those Tifosi fans, with Michael Schumacher set to return, Ferrari are poised to strike back. Good night.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by F1 Racing Magazine is www.itv-f1.com.
Before he's back behind the wheel of his Ferrari. The German tested at Monza in the hope of proving his fitness ahead of next week's Italian Grand Prix. But he's ruled himself out of the next 2 races after suffering more problems with the leg he broke at Silverstone in July.
Michael Schumacher had always hoped to be back in time for the Italian Grand Prix, but as he limped away from his car after a testing session at Monza, one thing was clear: he needs more time.
Problems in my leg are still too big to be able to do a proper job. It is basically impossible to run at the moment. For me, more than 5 laps.
The session was at least a chance for the former world champion to show his Ferrari bosses how far he's come since breaking his leg at Silverstone. Even though Schumacher is out of the running for the Drivers' Championship, he had planned to help Ferrari teammate Eddie Irvine capture the title. The Ulsterman is just 1 point behind world champion Mika Häkkinen. Irvine was at Monza to lend his support, as were thousands of Tifosi, Ferrari's famous legion of fans. But it wasn't to be, and when Mika Salo continues deputising for him next week, the German will be forced to watch from the sidelines, and the fans and Ferrari must wait a little longer for his return. Jackie Levy, Sky News.